Reckoning. It's not easy to describe massive relationships, unknown forces, and unseen magicians. Mysterious relationships never take place in the media. Balances and dependency do not allow it. Again, very important developments are taking place. Again, surprising steps are being taken. Let's briefly summarize what happened and come to Turkey. Via Mehmet Şimşek. Charles found media coverage as the prince, while the queen died and took his place. The operation started in Saray for the perception of a figure who could not even sign the files placed in front of him. The king, who will wear the crown on May 6, was served in the image of capable from the very first days. It's been a while. The waters settled. King Charles was to make his first official visit to France. But the country was mixed. Because of the pension law, the streets were not passed by the protesters. When the conditions were not suitable, King Charles broke the route to Germany on his first official trip. A power in focus was preventing the king from going to Paris, so Macron was a name brought to power by his money hirers. Now he was in trouble with the pension law. While the streets of France were burning, he did not take a step back and even jumped on his plane to China. So what was going on? Let's refresh our memories a little. Macron came to power by winning the 2017 and 2022 elections. The French Financial Crimes Prosecutor's Office, Le Parquet National Financier, opened the file, which is referred to as Macron leaks and McKinsey scandal in the media. He would investigate the relations of President Macron and his team with the American consulting firm McKinsey, which was also investigated for tax evasion, and the conditions for awarding the tenders. McKinsey was no stranger to Turkey either. It was a formation with huge families behind it. Anyway, Macron comes and the first thing he does was to set up a table for his pension funds. A meeting was held with 21 FON institutions in the heart of Paris. Who was in the lead role? Of course, BlackRock and Larry Fink. Macron wanted to give his country's money to Fink and was taking a step. Macron was persistent. BlackRock's French President Jean-François Sorelli, who previously served as an advisor to former French President Jacques Chirac, was also drawn into the business. Also, the awarding of the Legion of Honor, a French Medal of Merit, was the last straw. The interesting thing is, guess where was the hand of Jean-François Sorelli, the French president of BlackRock, who is the name under discussion? Yes. At McKinsey. He was a senior man there as well. It was effective. The roads and the boss were the same. Continue. I think there was a subject that very few people in Turkey knew. Larry Fink, the CEO of a giant like BlackRock, was very close to Jeffrey Epstein, although he was not well known. In fact, some important names in the USA Epstein was attached to Fink. He would take the instructions directly from him, he said. When Larry Fink was so privileged over Macron and in France, the possibility of its reflection in global policies also appeared. President of France, Macron, went to China for a 3-day visit. He met with Chinese leader Jinping. We can't push ourselves away from China. We can't turn our backs. We cannot break our ties, he said. In other words, he was reviving the strong points connecting China and Europe. Macron was reaching out to China, and Xi Jinping was catching it in the air. While the Chinese leader did not meet anyone outside of Beijing, they would meet in Guangzhou, where French investments were located. Even this was an important move that showed how much China would depend on Europe and France. If you think about AUKUS, if you take into account that France was pushed out of the project by the USA, England, Australia, the importance of the step taken would be better understood. Let's continue with BlackRock. One of those who targeted Larry Fink was George Soros. In his article for the Wall Street Journal, Soros stated that the world's largest money manager BlackRock's investment in China could pose a risk to its customers' money and the security interests of the United States. Investing billions of dollars in China is a tragic mistake. BlackRock's customers will likely lose money, and more importantly, the national security interests of the United States and other democracies will suffer, Soros said. The famous money magician, Soros, previously wrote in the Financial Times and noted that BlackRock's roadmap should be followed well. He said that the management of the asset should be done transparently and in accordance with the partnerships of the shareholders. As in every article of Soros, he once again described Xi Jinping as the most dangerous enemy for open societies in the world. When we put Soros next to President Biden and remember the fights he had with Trump, and even reminded him to say stop, we saw the great struggle within the USA. It was obvious how this spread everywhere, both through MACRON and China. A huge structure within the USA wanted to make China one of the two greats under the pressure of the family. According to the US deep state, the desired philosophy of let one great, and China was actually valid. When Trump was elected president, the German Der Spiegel made an important cover. I have written several times. There was a call to the four leaders on the cover, namely Trump, Putin, Erdogan, Xi Jinping. Is there anyone to stop? Soros' European spirit and the EKOL that came with it were against them. The focus of this in the US was Democrats. It was Obama, it was Biden. Even though Trump was removed, the other three leaders who were targeted continued on their way strongly. Despite Soros, Macron was getting along with McKinsey, and both Eric and Rothschild were instructing help Macron without getting paid if necessary. Macron's wife and his wife's first wife were both working with the Rothschilds. This is the struggle, as I have written for days. Jeffrey, it could also be read through Epstein and his relationships. It could be seen how the global war gnawed at the USA and how the power was sought to be moved to China. On the way to May 14, President Erdogan seemed to want to make the Mehmet Şimşek move in order not to completely confront the body. May 14 was very important. That's why I write the results will be global. It is obvious that Europe is participating in the struggle between the USA and China. May 14 would show us what to do. We'll see where we stand. Looking at the events like this, it became clear how important even one vote was. As I wrote before, the opposition is globally. He was with the LOSTS. Let's see. Let's watch. Note, BlackRock's office in Paris was occupied on the day Macron landed in Beijing.